All right, well, welcome everyone to another edition of the Unpredictable Pipeline. We are continuing this series into 2021, talking to leading B2B CMOs across various industries, company sizes, about how they have been navigating their teams, their companies, their industries, their families through the pandemic, through difficult times, and as we're now well into 2021, how we're going to hit the number this year as well. Very excited to have with us the CMO of Cisco Meraki. Excuse me, Cisco. I practiced this before. This is terrible. Cisco Meraki.
That's right.
Rebecca Stone, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
And not just joining us, by the way, but joining us from her laundry room. So I know we've all got, I've got the basement, I've got the craft closet back here, we've got the piano, like we've all got our spots. You get the laundry room.
I got the laundry room. I'm the lucky one in this household. Let me tell you. Yes, I did. It's between my husband working in our bedroom, my daughter working in her room, and our older daughter working in her bedroom, and our 3-year-old running around throughout the house. It was really hard to find a spot that I could close the door and get everybody out of my hair, and it was either this or my car. So I decided I chose the laundry room as the better of the two options.
I think that's a definite win. I think the fact that you have a door that closes behind you is a bigger win. So my wife is a teacher, and she's a part-time teacher, and she's a reading specialist. We've tried a bunch of different rooms. We tried to have her down here, like I talked too loud. She actually is now set up shop in our greenhouse. So she's got a heater and a blanket, and it's going to get a little steamy once she gets her start going here in a little bit. But like it's her office. I mean, it's
and I've embraced it. Like it's become the thing. On all of our all hands meetings with the company and everything, everybody knows I'm in the laundry room. I wrote a blog post about it. It inspired a T-shirt. We're really known for our T-shirts at Meraki, and so it inspired a T-shirt, which I really consider one of my highlights of 2020. So I'm all right with it. It's okay. It could be a lot worse.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, like, look, and I think we all, if we could go back 12 months, we would not have chosen some of the circumstances we've had to work in the last 12 months. But there are, I mean, I guess you'd call it some silver linings. Like you don't get a silver lining if there aren't clouds, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the fact that you've been able to sort of have some of that shared experience with your team. Yeah. We were always used to doing sort of every other week team lunches with our team back at the office. We don't do that anymore, but we do weekly happy hours and we play online games together. And it's just, it's a different level of community building that we wouldn't have done if we didn't have this. So, well, thank you very much for joining us to do this today. Speaking of a year ago, beginning of 2020, you were still relatively new in your role and sort of building your go-to-market strategy, excited about the year ahead. And then COVID happened. So talk a little bit about what that was like, 10, 11 months ago, what that looked like, and what were the things that sort of sustained to help you hit your number last year?
Yeah. So I was about 4 months into my role when Cisco as a whole decided to send everybody home for work from home. And at that point, we were literally 2 weeks away from a major org change on the Meraki marketing team. We were going through some major changes in terms of how we were working together, not just, in the people moving into different roles, but moving from a very siloed, very focused on just what I consider lead conversion kind of marketing motion into a full funnel marketing process. And so to have to do that all from home was daunting in March and April. And not to mention, having everybody have to deal with the childcare issues that they had to deal with, and how do you balance like all of these changes at work with all of the changes at home that we have to deal with. I was in the process of buying a house at that same time. And so it was pretty crazy. I am gonna admit, but I think, what I learned from it is something that probably I knew before, but it really solidified, is communication is key to any process and org change. And your responsibility as a leader is to communicate again, and then communicate again about the things that are happening, and to know that it was going to be slower, accept the fact that it was probably going to be a slower process than it would have been if we were all in person. Granted, there were some positives that I would say I took away from it. We had a big chunk of our team is based in San Francisco, in the Mission Bay area. But we also had a few people in Chicago. We had 10 or 12 people in London, and we had about 8 people in Sydney. And the positive, I think, of working from home is something that if you have regional teams, I think everybody can really appreciate, is the leveling that it did. When I've been in that situation. Everybody's been in that situation where you have 20 people in a room that all, somebody says a joke that doesn't make it quite onto the speaker, and everybody in the room laughs, and you're stuck on the video screen going, why is everybody laughing? And so that those situations where when you're not in that room, you feel a little bit out of it and removed from it. There was a lot of leveling of that for those regional teams, and I think that was actually a positive. And I think I've seen our regional teams actually move more towards working with our that core San Francisco team as a result.
I think over the last year, successful managers have really sort of become better managers because you've had to deal with a lot of these different variables. And I think, it was easier, I guess, before all of this, just to sort of have professional one-on-ones, focus on the business, focus on the KPIs.
Yep.
And more so, I hear like some of the people that I consider some of the better marketing leaders or better leaders in general, and those that where their team would reciprocate that sentiment. They on a regular basis in one-on-ones, they're saying like, "How are you?"
Yeah.
No. How are you? Right? Yeah. Because like, if we're literally like, I was, if you're working in your laundry room, if my wife is working from a greenhouse, things are not normal.
Yeah.
So, when you mentioned you've got a 3-year-old at home, I've got 3 young kids and a 10-month-old or 10-week-old puppy. I mean, things are a little chaotic.
Yep.
And whether you choose to bring a puppy home or not, this is the life we're living, and you can't ignore that stuff, and you can't ignore the emotions and feelings, even especially when they boil over. I think it's really important to recognize and address that.
Yeah, and I think it's not just the stress of the pandemic, which is global, but it's also, we've had so much happen in the United States over the last 12 months, from the Black Lives Matter movement and some of the reckoning around that, and just the drama that has gone on with the past administration. There were a lot of struggles on the team that were related to that, and being having to address those on top of all of the other stuff, and everybody knows that the joke is 2020, right? But I think I 100% agree with you that that merging, and I haven't seen everybody's kids that I work with, like as often as I have in the last year. And I love it. I think it's great. I think it does help to combine and connect those two things together. So,
well, I think, people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. And I think sort of secondarily that they probably leave the team and the environment they work in.
Yeah.
And we are not, and probably we have never been supporting just the professional, just the individual. Yeah. We are supporting them as a person, as a human being, as someone with all of the feels.
Yep.
And I think, it's a skill set that some managers have had to get more comfortable with, digging into some of that.
Yeah.
But I think especially in this environment, look, I don't think this is going to go away as we start migrating back to offices occasionally as well. That as a manager, we have to do that, right? Yeah. Question for you, like, how do you then, as a CMO, you're managing people, or probably managing people. Like, how do you encourage and facilitate that kind of a culture throughout your organization beyond just what you can do directly?
Yeah. I think that your responsibility as a leader of leaders is to teach your leaders how to be leaders. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I know from my own personal career journey, as well as being somebody who is a mentor to a number of leaders now, is that it's something that has to be taught. It's not even the people where it does come naturally and those raw talents and skills come naturally. Being a good leader and thinking about the person as a whole, that you are managing, and thinking about them not just in the context of are they completing the work that they need to do, but how do I build this person? How do I build their skill set? How do I recognize the stars, the A players, and give them the path that they need and the opportunities that they need? One of the things that I was just talking to one of my managers about just yesterday was the fact that you need to think about, as a leader, how you are going to be replaced and who is going to replace you, and what are the opportunities that you are going to give the people under you in order to be able to do that. And I think that is what breeds loyalty more than anything, is being able to demonstrate that you are comfortable and you thrive with the fact that that others around you are thriving and being phenomenal. And I think that the focus that I would put on it is you teach them how to do that job, and that's a necessity, I think, for any good leader.
So what's that? Is the last question for you, and we'll let you go. Like, what is that? What do you think that's going to look like over the next 11 months? As we, I think we're going to probably need to be comfortable with working remotely for a while, and it may not be that we all go back Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 in our offices. Is the way that we manage our teams, is the way that we manage and facilitate, productivity and success going to change as we go through that? Or do you think some of these lessons we have now are going to become the playbook of how we manage people now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, when we think about that hiring and what we've been doing, is we've hired significantly more remotely than I would have ever done a year ago. And I would say that probably 50%, and we're lucky enough to be in a position where I'm hiring right now. But over 50% of the people that we've hired are not in one of those core 3 offices that, they're distributed all throughout the countries and the regions that we're in. And so I think we're going to have to move more towards this. And I would also say, I kind of don't want to go back to the office every day. It's like, I even though I'm in the laundry room, I enjoy being with my kids and getting to see them and knowing what's going on. And so I can't imagine, there are people, I think, who are in different life stages than I am, who will want that daily interaction with others. But I think everybody appreciates the fact that they don't have a commute and they don't have things that they have to do. And so giving everybody the opportunity and the flexibility and thinking about that is going to be the biggest change. Is not the requirement that everybody be in the office, but how do you make it flexible and how do you make it work? Do you make everybody be in 1 day a week? Do you not? Do you make everybody just be remote and only do like quarterly updates? We are definitely having that conversation and talking through that now.
I love it. I mean, we just spent 13 minutes not talking about SQLs, not talking about marketing technology, not talking about SDR alignment, but honestly, the stuff that really matters. Because if we don't nail this, we don't nail the human side, the management side.
I can say if you don't have the team right, nothing else will matter because you won't be successful anywhere else.
Love it. Love it. Well, Rebecca Stone, live from her laundry room. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing a little of your insights and best practices. Boy, pipeline continues to be unpredictable. We're making the best of it, and in many cases, we're thriving and succeeding through it. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. We'll see you next time.